Hello again. I'm Livy. I'm back. And this is the next part of I guess it's going to be my Let's Talk About Decks series. And this one is the first part of all my tarot decks currently in my collection. And I'm doing at least two parts because I learned from my last video that my camera, which I'm recording on right now, absolutely hates it if my video goes on too long. So anyways, to speed up that process here, all the tarot decks in my collection, part one, and I'm going to start actually from oldest decks to newest. It's it's the bit that makes most sense in my mind. So I'm not going to spend too long on this one because I talked about this deck up the wazoo in my tarot origin story, but this was my first tarot deck, and this is the Raven's Prophecy Tarot by Maggie Stiefvater. Oop, I'll push those up a little bit. There we go. Absolutely love this deck. This is my first tarot deck. A lot of people say, oh, I only like this deck during Halloween season, or oh, I don't like that it's a shadow work deck. And to both of those claims, I say, why? Why does it have to be just a Halloween deck or just a shadow deck? It doesn't give off those vibes for me personally. I know a lot of people see the orange. Oh, this is a beautiful card, by the way. But I know a lot of people see the orange and they go, oh, and black, I guess, in the background. And they go, oh, Halloween. But for some reason, maybe it's like this shade of orange or something. It doesn't give me that vibes. So for me, I can use this deck all year round and it works for me and it's a beautiful deck. And I could talk about this deck for ages and I'm not going to, but here's some of the beautiful art. And I'm going to move on quickly to the next one because again, I've talked about this deck a lot. You want to hear me ranting and raving, find that tarot origin video. It's on my channel. But it was my first tarot deck. But here's the thing, as I get out the next deck. I got rid of the decks that were originally decks number 2 and 3 in my collection. So I believe this is deck number 4 that I've ever owned, was Tarot of the Divine. You guys have probably seen this deck a lot. It's by Yoshi Yoshitani. It's a mass market deck, just like the Raven's Prophecy was. Retailed about this price, or at least it was when I bought it. Maybe it's different now. I love this deck too. Okay, I'm going to be honest. I love Tarot of the Divine. This is the guidebook it comes with. I even love that the guidebook is colored so you can see all the artwork for the beautiful cards, right? My biggest thing, though, with this guidebook that I kind of wish is that, well, one, each of these stories was a little bigger because this is a book that This is a tarot deck that pulls from different mythologies and cultures from around the world, and there's only the tiniest little segments in each of this. Also, if you care to be someone who's like, let me just double check. Oh, there is a spread. Okay. Never mind. I was going to say, I don't remember there really being spreads, but I think this is like the only one in this deck. But anyways, that's not important. The cards are important. Let me move that out of the way. I love this deck. I do. But as you can see, I have little hands. You can't tell because my camera makes me do these videos really close in. But this deck is chunky. You can look at it. It's chunky. And the other thing you could probably tell, even just from looking at it like this, is that the cards have a slight bow to them. That's my one complaint about this deck, is that it has a slight bow. And it's happened ever since I really bought this deck. But the artwork is stunning. It's also like, it feels like it's linen, but it's like a weird linen. It's kind of like sticky almost feeling. It's kind of weird. But anyways, the artwork is the important thing, and the artwork is stunning. It also has my favorite color scheme ever, which is like blue and reds, like mixed together. So I love this deck. But I don't reach for it as often, only because that, like, the cardstock thing with, like, it bending drives me up the wazoo. Yeah. But if you don't know this deck, if you don't own this deck, I do recommend this deck because it's a great one. Like, especially if you're someone like me who loves literature and stories and learning about different cultures, like myths and things, I do recommend this deck. But this is Tarot of the Divine. Beautiful. Like, even this, like, come on. The Ten of Cups, and they're so happy, and look at how beautiful everything is right now. Look at their little, they even have a little, I never really noticed that, they have their little baby. Beautiful, beautiful deck. And come on, those backs. Beautiful. But Tarot Divine was, yeah, the 4th tarot deck in my collection. You guys are going to see, I'm saying, oh, I have to put this video into parts, but I really don't own that many tarot decks by other people's standard. Currently, I say currently because let's be honest here, people. A lot of us keep buying decks. Currently, I have only 18 decks that are tarot. So that's not very much by a lot of people's standards. But the next one I'm going to show is one that people have probably also seen a lot. Oops, filming at night, not a great time for this, but Anima Mundi Tarot. This is by Megan, I hope I'm probably going to butcher his last name. Megan Weirweeden. You can find this deck on Etsy. It has gold edging, very reflective, as you can see. Mine is in okay shape. This is like the 5th deck I've ever owned, I think. It's in okay shape, but I'll be honest too, I don't use this deck also nearly as much as I should. Even though it is stunning, it's an animal deck too for people who like animal decks, and it does have like this amazing cardstock. It's linen, but it feels like sturdy enough, and it's just the smoothest texture. I love smooth textures. But anyways, this deck, as you can see, even just looking at this Magician card, beautiful Magician, this deck is stunning. If you love animal decks, and you don't own this one, I kind of think you should because the art is beautiful. But the reason why I don't always reach for this deck is, I'm going to show you the next couple cards. Well, you can kind of tell with this one and then maybe with this one. So the vibes of this deck are that it takes place at, I believe, I'm pretty sure this deck takes place in that liminal space between like either dawn or dusk. And it gives off this kind of weird energy for that reason, where sometimes it almost feels like a shadow deck for me personally, even though I don't think most people feel that way about this deck. So sometimes, ooh, a lot of these cards are in reverse. Sometimes I just don't reach for it as much. And also because of this, this deck is a Pip-ish deck. I mean, this is the 10 of Pentacles, and you can see the legacy of the family, so you can get some kind of idea what this card is about. But it does have these bulky pips in here. And to be honest, guys, I'm not a fan of pip decks that don't give much meaning, like this. What is this? The 6 of Cups. You can't really tell that much that you're leaving something behind. I don't know. Anyways, for that reason, I don't reach for this deck as much because I don't like pips that don't move. I think for a pip deck to work for me personally, to be able to read from it, it has to have movement. I have to be able to tell what the card is about, even if it is a pip deck, by the way it is illustrated, I guess. So some of these work for me. This one doesn't as much. You know what I mean? So for that reason, I don't always gravitate towards this deck, but it is undeniably beautiful, beautiful backs, beautiful design, beautiful everything with this deck. It's just not me and pips. We don't always get along. But that was the 5th deck I've ever owned, but the 3rd deck I'm showing. Another one. Now, another thing you guys are going to notice right off the bat, you're going to find out in just a second, is that I love small decks. You can't tell because, again, I'm being, my camera makes me be close in. but I have really small hands in person, so I like smaller decks. So a lot of the decks you're going to see are small decks, and this is another one that is. This deck, let me just say, I don't see anybody with this deck. Literally, like, nobody. And I don't know why, because I'm pretty sure people like cat decks. But if you didn't know this deck, you can also find it on Etsy. I'll put the link down below. I try to put links if they're an indie deck. But this is the Mini Cat Tarot 78 card divination deck by, well, she only puts her Etsy shop name. But I'm inclined to pronounce that Rachelou. And this is the revised edition. I don't know what the original edition was like, but I own the revised edition. It comes in a tuck box like this. And as you can also see, this deck is a square deck. It has a mini guidebook. The guidebook does have color. I love when guidebooks have color. But as you can see, the only ones that get like a bigger message to them are the major arcana. The minor arcana kind of get the shaft a little bit. So this, I wouldn't say this is a good beginner deck, but if you studied Rider-Waite-Smith like extensively and you know the meanings of the cards, this won't be a problem, because as you're going to see, this is a Rider-Waite-Smith clone. This is probably the closest I have to a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, to be honest, because I don't actually own any of the originals. So these are the cute little backs. They're not complete, as you can tell, they're not like completely reversible for people who care about that kind of thing. But at the same time, you also have a cat both ways, so I guess you can assume it's reversible in some way. But this deck is adorable. I love cats, but this is the only cat deck I own, and I think it's the only cat deck I'm probably going to ever need because it is so stinking cute. It is a Rider-Waite-Smith clone, like I said, and it's just illustrated beautifully. Like, I like this deck because it draws that line for me between like cute and like serious moments. Like, let me see if I can find it. There's like a, oh no, that's, oh, the sun. My cat. It looks like my cat. I don't know if I can find it. There's like a couple times where some of the illustrations are like, ooh, okay, that is a little deeper because of course it follows Rider-Waite-Smith. But I love this deck just because it's very cute. I think the reason why I haven't gravitated towards wanting a different style of cat deck is because I think those ones take themselves a little too seriously, you know? They're like trying to draw anatomically correct cats, and that's not my vibe. But this deck is like the perfect vibe for me. I love cutesy things, but I don't like cutesy also that's like too bubbly, and you're gonna find that out. I'm gonna talk a little more about that I'm eventually gonna do a purgatory box video, so I'll talk about that. But this is like the right balance of cutesy for me. And yeah, if you don't know this deck, let me know if you actually want a walkthrough of it. Maybe I'll walk through this deck, but it's so cute. And yeah, if you love cats, give this one a try. But I've read with this deck for kids. I've read this deck. It's like a safe for work deck because obviously it's cats. So you can kind of take it anywhere, and because it's a square and has an easy box, it travels really well. So that was the Mini Cat Tarot. Next, I'm going to show. Oh, you won't be able to tell with this. Sorry. This is the Teeny Tiny Tarot. And the reason why I have to put a little washi tape flap. Listen, okay, listen. I love Holly Audley and her decks. I even talked about her other ones in my Oracle video, but anything, if you don't know about her tuck boxes, they are very, very, very tight. I panicked when I got this deck, and I was trying to get the cards out, and I was afraid I was going to have to rip the whole entire box. Instead, I had to literally cut the top of the box because I couldn't get my cards out. So that's how tightly they're packed. But this deck, oops, well, there's a card stuck in there. It's just going to have to be. I love this deck. It's bridge size. perfect for me because I have, again, tinier hands. And see, actually, bridge size, my hand, that's how you know. Even though it's like close together. This deck is also, again, it's a kind of cutesy style deck, but it's also creepy at the same time. Maybe that's my vibe. Has to strike the balance. See, kind of a pip deck, also. But the reason why I reach for this deck more than any other pip style deck is because, well, except I don't like, the one flaw about this deck is the court cards. I don't know if we're gonna see more of them as I flip through. But anyways, sorry, going away. The reason why this deck works for me is that the pips have a bit more of movement. Like, for instance, this is very pippish. However, you get the sense that this is the 9 of swords or the 9 of needles, as this deck is, because this is creepy AF. You can tell this is like anxiety, scary inducing. Something bad is going to happen. This demon's coming out of nowhere. Like, you can get that vibe from this. This is why this as a pip works for me. I feel like I had to make a whole explanation on that. This one, okay, I guess you get the legacy from this too, of this eyeball flower thing. Anyways, if you like creepy decks and you don't own this deck, you probably should. Holly Audley's decks are just great. But this is the teeny tiny tarot. This is more typical, of course. But yeah. And the sun. This has a lot of symbolism. I think I've talked about to myself. Sorry, I've talked to myself about that card before. Even this one. So this is a great deck. Also. And I'm going to move this out of the way. That's the teeny tiny tarot. Moving down the line, I only have 4 more decks to show for this part. Next one I'm going to show, I think I got this deck next. Oh, wait, no, maybe it was the other one, but I'll show that one after. This is the mini, once again, mini. This is the little Prisma Visions tarot. This is the version in a tin. This deck came out a while ago, but I finally got my hands on it because it comes in a cute tin, and I love the tin. It also comes with this, Prisma Visions Tarot. They're only keywords, but that's not a problem for me because I actually own, I own the big book. That's like the big guidebook that's like colored and glossy and beautiful. So this isn't a problem. This is good for travel. But it has this cool design on the back. So this is the Prisma Visions Tarot. This deck is going to live in my hearts of hearts forever. This artwork is so beautiful. The first time I saw this deck, even actually before I owned a tarot deck, I saw this deck. And I literally gasped in person. I couldn't believe it. Oh, it's gilded edges, silver gilded. It's not the greatest gilding, I think, for these minis, I'm going to be honest, or at least this version of gilding for the Prisma Visions. But this deck is stunning. I mean, look at it. I know people sometimes complain about small decks. They're just like, oh, I can't see all the detail. But you know what? I can literally see the person in there, like falling and like getting caught by the flowers and being saved before crashing to the bottom. That's the hope of the star. And you just see, it's just beautiful. I'm forever in love with this deck. Like, every time I take it out, I'm just like, yes, look at that magician holding the person. I can't get over it. And if you were waffling on this deck, by the way, you're thinking, oh, I don't know if I should own this. I recommend it. I recommend getting this tin. The tin is great. You know, tins can travel, so it's great. But this deck is beautiful, beautiful hermit. And I'm forever going to shout this deck out. Yes. Yes. Pick it up. Pick it up if you can. If you don't already own it, I recommend it. Always a good one. And I'm always going to be happy I own it, and it'll probably never leave my collection, being completely honest. So that's the little Prisma Visions. Next up, and then I'll do my last two. Oof. No good way to zoom in on this when my thing is already zoomed in. This is the white Numen. This is, where is it? Nope, doesn't say right there. That's cool. Oh, there you go. Liminal 11. It's one of their decks. People have probably seen this deck around. It comes in this tuck box, kind of. It has a magnetic flap. These are always good. And then it slides out like that. The white Numen. This deck, I'll be completely honest, I haven't actually worked with this deck a lot because, well, first you're going to see, again, another bulky deck. I feel like Liminal 11 decks, from what I've seen, are always kind of bulky. But this one is particularly bulky feeling. Oop. My scarf's getting all kinky here. Okay, these are the backs. Backs are stunning. It's a slight gloss. It's not, I wouldn't say it's a high gloss, but it has a slight gloss to it. And its cardstock is very thick. This deck is great. But I think the reason why I don't work with it much is because I kind of need to be in a certain vibe. And I'll be honest, I don't always reach for decks with a lot of people in them. But at the same time, I love this deck because it's also like it's very fantasy-like. It's a fantasy world, and that's why it works for me. But it's like an interesting fantasy story. I don't know. Oh, yep, the High Priestess. This is one of the extra cards. It comes with white Numen, and the other Numen is called what? What is it called? Oh, the black Numen. Okay, I was looking in the guidebook. Has a small guidebook. To be honest, this thing, though, isn't very useful either. The major arcana gets stuff, and then the minor arcana gets, like, that little thing. So, not the greatest guidebook either. But I do love this deck. I just haven't found a time to use it more. And I think, too, because when I bought this deck, it was, like, kind of end of summer. So even that's the vibes it gives me, is like summer spring vibes. But I didn't, I was leaving that season, and now we're in a darker time, and I don't know, I just haven't worked with it yet that much, but I love it. And I don't know, yeah, I need to sit with this, why I don't use it as much, but I like it. I like it because it's fantasy. So there you go, that's my brand. Next deck, it's funny, I'm talking about pip decks, and then I'm like, I don't like pip decks as much, and yet I have this one. I don't think anyone knows this one, really. This is another Etsy deck, indie deck. It's called Moonlight Crystal. The artist is from Canada, and I was following her for a while because I just love, this is my aesthetic, by the way. Again, cutesy. In the right way for me, I guess. This is my aesthetic. It's a very tiny deck. This is probably, I think, one of my smallest decks, and you're going to see like two really tiny ones in the next half. But it does come with this cute little mini guidebook that's also colored. It has good keywords, but as you can see, these are literally the card images, and this is 100% a pip deck. So I'll admit, okay, this is the one deck I've got that I literally only have this deck because I love the art. So this isn't a deck where you can intuitively read from. This is how tiny it is. It's a tiny deck. But this is just aesthetic for me. Okay. That's why I own this deck. So I guess I won't spend too long going over it, but I just love the art. I'm a sucker for stained glass. That's part of the reason why. And I just like how pastel everything is. So that's why I have this deck. But I feel like this is only a great deck to have if you can read pips maybe, or if you just don't mind that it's very minimal and it doesn't really tell you all that much about what the cards are about, then give this one a shot. But I do like the art and the backs. So this is my vibe in some ways. But yeah, I feel like I can only do personal reads quick on the go with this. This isn't really for reading with people. And I'll be straight up about that. I don't think it is. Sorry, my camera, I jumped it. But that's Moonlight Crystal Tarot. Went quickly on that one because there's not much to say. Last deck. Final deck for this video. I'm going really quickly because, again, my camera freaks out. This is the mini Nicolette Ceccoli Tarot. This deck, you know, the one that tends to split people in two different directions of thought. I say that because, seriously, I every time I see someone who actually owns this deck on TarotTube videos that I creep on, I'm sorry, people are always either saying this deck gives them creepy vibes and they have to get rid of it, or they keep it and only use it during a certain time. Like, but I love this deck. I guess again, because it's cute creepy. That's my brand, I guess. Cute creepy stuff. I edged mine in this red. I was trying to match, sorry, me as I awkwardly still figure out how to move around a camera. I was trying to match that red. My camera's not going to pick that up. I feel like I almost matched that red. Or maybe I did. In person, it looks a little different when it's not nighttime. But I love this deck. I edged in that color. And it's cute and creepy, and it has Nicolette Ceccoli's art, and this deck pulls people apart because it is one of those decks that, you know, it had pre-existing artwork, and then people decided, hey, let's put it into a tarot deck, and not all the images necessarily match up completely. But I just love the art. My partner's actually creeped out by this deck, so that's what I mean, right? It's like it's a very polarizing deck. But I love it. I love that. It's a mini. And I don't know. For some reason, I'm going to be using this deck in December, I feel like. Like, this gives me, like, maybe it's because I edged it that way, but it gives me, like, Christmas vibes. So I'll be using it more then, like, especially this card. Hello, Snow White. But yeah, I do like the artwork of this, and it's a mini deck, so it's perfect for me. And Los Scarabeo, if you want a good mini, they have pretty good minis. This cardstock is good for me. It's got a slight gloss, but not too bad. And it has a good bend for being a mini. Like, it's sturdy. Like, this isn't gonna fall apart. And if you were a riffle shuffler, I'm not, you could still shuffle this. So that's my endorsement. If you are thinking of getting this deck and maybe you just want the mini size, I recommend the mini. And maybe if you want to edge yours in a fun color too, I don't know. I edged mine and it made it a bonding experience. But yeah, those are all the first half of all the tarot decks currently in my collection. Next time, I will have more. I think 9 more to be precise. Again, I don't have a big collection so far. There's decks I know that I've already backed on Kickstarter that won't come either until by the end of this year, or they won't come until next year. So I'm keeping, again, a very small collection, kind of, comparatively to others. And that's the way I like it. But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you were introduced to some decks that you didn't really know very much. And I hope you thought about others in a different light. I'm going to show some other ones that are newer, but I still love them in the next video. And hope you guys enjoy. Bye.